All of these men, when you look at Marco Rubio, when you look at all of the others, JD Vance, JD Just Dance, Vance, when you look at the moral collapse, and I keep saying that over and over, but all of these people just a few news cycles ago had clarity on this.
Yeah.
And now they've done a 180-degree turn, and they are constantly sane washing. And I think these people, how they get flyover states in it is they use a lot of religious washing. You heard, I think it's Tim Scott. I heard a quote from him yesterday, and he said, I just want to thank the good Lord that we have President Trump in charge because he cares so much about Americans, which everybody knows is a lie, but he uses religion to wash over this, to make people in flyover states say, oh, the Lord likes Trump.
Look, have you ever had one of those moments where you see something so perfectly, poetically absurd that you just have to stop and applaud the universe for its sense of humor? Because I think I just did.
Thing about MAGA. They think the rules that apply to everybody else don't apply to them. They bathe in hypocrisy, they bask in double standards, and they can call all of these ugly names to everybody. And if you look at them and say you're a racist and you're a dumbass, oh, what are you, a virtue signaler? You know, they have, and it's just like, number one, I don't even engage with these people. Step one, remove all from your life. I mean, that's like the best thing you can do, because this is, for me, this is different than like when Mitt Romney was running against Obama.
Jennifer Welch, absolutely dismantle, disassemble, and then politely set on fire the public persona of Donald Trump. And it wasn't even a political rant. It's like using a feather to topple a giant. You don't see it coming.
Jennifer Welch, which actually I didn't know who she was before. Apparently she's kind of...
You know, I do watch Bravo occasionally. I watch some of the shows, but I had never heard of her. And we're going to play a clip of her so you'll see if you recognize her. She was on this TV show for Bravo, and now she has a podcast. And she has 1 million people who follow her on the podcast. And the podcast is called I've Had It. But she's clearly a Democrat, and she's putting down Republicans almost like...
Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying, who wakes up and decides to gatekeep guacamole? That's a bold move. And then she goes further. She starts painting this picture of MAGA folks walking into ethnic restaurants with what she calls a lot of nerve. And I'm thinking, is this satire? Is this performance art? Or is this just Jennifer Welch being Jennifer Welch? Because she's not mincing words. She's not even slicing them delicately. She's throwing the whole knife block.
Talk a lot of smack on our podcast, and then sometimes Fox News will browbeat us for a full day. Wow. And then I get a lot of feedback from those people. And the
very
feedback,
nice, I'm sure.
Constructive criticism, I'm sure.
The feedback is that white liberal women are going to ruin the country. And every time I hear these MAGA men, it's never any policy. It's never giving a damn about anybody else around them. It is the list of people that trigger them. And it's amazing to me how triggered they are by drag queens, by gay people. And then when I entered the case and they're mad at me or that I'm a threat, I see all of those men around that cabinet room as so emasculated. I don't see strength. I don't see alpha males. I don't even think I see beta males. I would go below that. Is it zeta? I don't know what it is. Bacteria, parasites. I don't know what it is, but it is such a scam on the American public that we're so tough and we're such big guys, and all they do is beat other people down. And I think their whole ethos truly is owning the libs.
And then she drops this line, brace yourself. She says Trump voters should only be allowed to enjoy Cracker Barrel. That's it. That's their culinary ceiling. Cracker Barrel. No pad thai, no enchiladas, no biryani, just biscuits and gravy until the end of time. I mean, what even is that logic? Like, is there a political litmus test at the hostess stand now? Hi, table for two? Great. Who'd you vote for in 2016, 2020, and 2024? And if you say Trump 3 times, boom, you're banished to the land of country fried steak.
TV show for Bravo, and now she has a podcast, and she has 1 million people who follow her on the podcast. And the podcast is called I've Had It. But she's clearly a Democrat, and she's putting down Republicans, almost like the deplorable comments, saying because Republicans are against DEI, because Republicans are anti-illegal immigration, you shouldn't be able to eat in a Mexican restaurant or an Indian restaurant or have a gay hairdresser. Listen to this.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser, friendly. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want a triple...
But here's where it gets wild. She doesn't stop at food. She goes full throttle into lifestyle. She says if you're a triple Trumper, you shouldn't be allowed to go to your gay hairdresser. And I paused. I actually paused because I had to process that sentence. Like, what does that even mean? Is she suggesting a political loyalty test before you get highlights? Sorry, sir, your voting record doesn't align with our balayage policy.
A triple Trump, and you want to browbeat DEI, and you want to browbeat gay people, and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years. And you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism. Get your fat out of the Mexican restaurant, get your fat over to Cracker Barrel.
She seems pleasant, very enjoyable.
Right.
Right.
It makes me.
I'd like to work for her.
That's why I never watch Bravo.
And then she hits Trump directly. Not just his policy, not just his rhetoric. She goes after his physical appearance with a string of insults that sound like they were pulled from a Mad Libs game written by a drunk stand-up comic. I won't repeat the whole thing, but let's just say she called him Cankles McTaco Tits, and I had to rewind. I had to hear it again, because that's not a phrase you just breeze past. That's a phrase that makes you sit up and reevaluate your entire vocabulary.
It turns out we are not the only ones thinking about the tail end of Trump's presidency and beyond. Cankles McTaco Tits is thinking about the exact same thing. And the quote is from Cankles, and he says, "I want to try and get to heaven. If I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons." And the Lincoln Project says lots to unpack here, but mostly his health can't be right if this is top of mind for him. And I completely agree with this because I think about this all the time. I know you guys think about this all the time. I mean, this is wild, you guys. It is absolutely wild.
Now, I've heard political rants before. I've heard celebrities go off. But this was something else. It wasn't just anger. It was theatrical. It was operatic. It was like watching someone do a dramatic reading of a Yelp review written in all caps, and I couldn't look away.
I believe in human rights and democracy. And most of the time the Fox viewer goes, "Oh, well, I do too." And I'm like, well, your vote would tell me otherwise. If you voted for Trump, you don't believe in human rights or democracy. I mean, he said that he was going to be a dictator, and you would never have to vote again. He said that. So that's antithetical to democratic ideals. And so I think we have to quit enabling these people, coddling these people, trying to go their way. They voted for this. They're going to suffer the consequences of it. We're going to keep voting on your behalf because that's the kind of people we are. But on a case-by-case basis, I don't have a whole lot of empathy for you. And I'm going to go a little bit further. A part of me is kind of excited that some of these country club Republicans that I know are looking at their 401ks right now going, motherfucker. Because you know what? They deserve to feel that pain. The country club Republicans, the white Republicans that you and I know, who try to make it okay to vote for Trump.
But here's the thing. Underneath all the profanity and the roasting and the bans on burrito, there's a real frustration. Welch is clearly fed up. She's not just mad at Trump. She's mad at what she sees as hypocrisy. She's saying, you can't vote for someone who demonizes immigrants and then turn around and enjoy the fruits of their culture. And whether you agree or not, you have to admit that's a provocative point.
The Trump administration is increasing threats to deploy federal forces to Chicago. The president said he wants a crackdown on crime there, while the Democratic governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, is calling it something else, a potential invasion. So far this Labor Day weekend, dozens of shootings have been reported in Chicago. The president is warning that Pritzker, he better, quote, straighten it out fast or we're coming. The governor says the White House is making plans in secret without communicating with his office. And it does come as CNN is reporting that the Trump administration is planning a major immigration operation in Chicago as early as this week. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has confirmed that ICE will expand operations in that city and other locations. But Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has now signed an executive order instructing local police not to assist in any federal immigration crackdown. Let's get right to Chicago this morning for the latest. CNN's Whitney Wild is there. Whitney, give us the status.
John, the expectation here is that there are going to be federal resources surged into the city of Chicago by Friday. The expectation is that's going to look like at least armored vehicles, very likely boots on the ground here. And when you're looking at some framework across the country to find out how this is going to look in Chicago, the question is it going to look like Washington, D.C., or is it going to look like Los Angeles? And our sources are telling us that this is going to look a lot more like Los Angeles. And that means that this is going to be an immigration push. So the plan...
It made me think, like, where do we draw the line between personal choice and public accountability? Can you separate your politics from your lifestyle? Can you vote one way and live another? Or does that make you a walking contradiction? And more importantly, who gets to decide?
There are some Democrats who have been at this level. If this is a 10, they've been at a 10 for a while now. But there are some people, and I think one of them is the person that Ezra Klein was talking to in that podcast, Radley Balco, and even President Obama, who have been kind of reluctant to go there. But they're going there now. I mean, do you see that shift happening?
Definitely. It's definitely happening. You see complete moral collapse of the United States government. The cabinet meeting with 3.5 hours of superficial praise is so cringeworthy. He's attacking the Fed. He's attacking all of our institutions. He's eliminating FEMA. It is horrifying that he is putting troops against American citizens because he claims that he's the law and order president. But we all know that's a lie because he's a convicted felon. He pardons convicted felons. He surrounds himself with obsequious people that kiss his ass all day, every day. It's nauseating and painful to see how weak he is to Vladimir Putin and others.
What do you...
Imagine a world where your dinner options are dictated by your ballot choices. Sorry, sir, you supported tax cuts for the wealth, no sushi for you. Or, ma'am, you opposed climate legislation. Please step away from the organic kale. It's absurd, but also kind of fascinating because it forces you to confront the disconnect between what people say they believe and how they live.
About the implications, particularly on the tax side of this bill. Who's going to gain the most from it? Joining us, Robert Frank here at Post 9 with some of those details. Robert, what jumps out to you? Who's going to be the big beneficiaries?
Well, the big beneficiaries are the ones who usually benefit, those toward the top. In fact, about 80% of the benefits of this bill go to the top 10% of earners. Now, while the tax cuts by themselves help every income group, I want to be clear here. Almost everyone gets a tax cut here. It wasn't just the wealthy that get tax cuts, but those cost cuts, which are mainly in Medicaid and SNAP, those are going to offset some of those tax cuts for those at the bottom. Now, the Yale Budget Lab looked at all this. So how each income group fares in the Senate bill, you combine the changes of the tax FERS as well as the budget cut. You get the bottom 20% would see a decline in after-tax income of $560 a year, or a 2.3% decrease in after-tax income. Now, the middle 20%, they would see a slight gain of $760 a year, or 1.5%. And the top quintile gets a $6,000 cut, or about 2.3%. Now, the top 1%, those making $650,000 or more, they get a tax cut of about $32,000 a year, 2.1%. So at the very top, it actually starts to decline because there's some income thresholds here for many of these provisions. Now, at the same time, most of the expensive parts of the tax bill benefit those at the bottom. So extending this standard deduction, that costs $1.4 trillion. Child tax credit, $800 billion. Eliminating tax on tips and overtime, over $120 billion. Now, remind you, the top 10% pay 70% of all federal income taxes, so the tax cuts mainly benefit those at the top. So it's when you combine them that you start to get this very mixed effect.
And Welch isn't alone. Her co-host, Angie Pumps Sullivan, is having the same vision. And I just sat there like, whoa, that escalated fast. It's like they took the concept of political accountability and turned it into a full-blown lifestyle perk.
And JD Vance, are you thankful for Sephora? Are you thankful every day? Have you called out thank you for eyeliner? Because where is the fucking gratitude for Sephora?
Failed drag queen, smoky eye sociopath, JD Just Dance Vance for expediency and efficiency and spite. I will from now on refer to as Lil Smokey, pun intended on the Lil Smokey. He knows. You guys, he knows because they've told Trump, because Trump's talking about, I got to get into heaven. People say I'm not doing well. The dementia's on fleek. We've got muffin top cankles. We've got the bruising on the hands. Everybody in there knows that the curtains are about to close on this guy. And JD Vance is right there, chomping at the bit, ready to get in. Put up this tweet from Newswire. Vance says he's ready to be president while praising Trump's health. Praising Trump's health, but also I'm ready to be president. The MAGA movement is always an exercise in contradiction, and that is on purpose. It is on purpose to say we're the party of law and order. And then you have a convicted felon that pardons felons. They on purpose say, oh, these masked agents, they have to have masks over their face because otherwise they're going to get doxxed. When the biggest doxer on the planet is Donald Trump, that doxes the judiciary, his opponents, anybody that speaks out against him.
Now, I'm not here to defend or condemn. I'm just here to observe. And what I observed was a woman who's had it, like really had it. She's not trying to win hearts and minds, she's trying to burn the whole playbook. And in doing so, she's sparked a conversation that's equal parts hilarious, uncomfortable, and oddly compelling. Because let's be honest, there's something cathartic about watching someone say the things most people are too afraid to say.
Maybe you are familiar with it, the frog in boiling water metaphor that seeks to illustrate the difference between sudden and gradual peril. In one particular context, it prompts an important question. When will we know? When will we really know that we are officially under authoritarian rule here? Remember that when you consider all of the breaking stories and headlines we woke up to this morning. As we speak, there are more than 2,000 armed soldiers, military, patrolling the streets of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. The federal task force managing the D.C. takeover says that the majority of those troops are carrying their service-issued M17 pistols, while a number are packing M4 rifles. At the moment, orders are to use those weapons, quote, as a last resort in response to an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. Troops are not making arrests, not yet at least. We should be clear, members of the United States military are among the finest and bravest and most noble men and women our country has to offer, period, full stop. The fault in everything we discussed today does not lie with them, but with the person giving them their orders, the country's elected commander-in-chief. Donald Trump today, in the midst of signing executive orders ending cashless bail and criminalizing flag burning, again suggested he'll send troops to Chicago.
So here's my question. What happens when our political choices start to clash with our everyday lives? What happens when the restaurant you love, the hairdresser you trust, the culture you celebrate, starts to feel incompatible with the ideology you support? Do you change your habits, or do you double down? And more importantly, who gets to call you out? Is it Jennifer Welch?
My questions first are, why did you decide to delve into politics in this podcast? And what can we learn as people who are not in a red state, or, you know, those of us who live on the coasts?
Angie and I are diehard political junkies. And so when we started the podcast, it was broader, more like, I've had it with gender reveal parties, et cetera. But live in a red state and you have a total abortion ban. You have an unhinged superintendent of school that is mandating that the 10 commandments be put up in classrooms. You see Project 2025 already become unraveled and unleashed in these states with no guardrails and no protections. So everybody said, don't talk about politics, Jennifer and Angie. And we thought, you know what? We're tired of everybody telling us women what we can and cannot talk about. We've had it with that. So we started talking about politics, and we're both very expressive and very opinionated.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. In a world saturated with vague statements, corporate speak, and careful diplomatic dodges, what Jennifer Welch did was utterly jarring. She didn't just cross a line, she poured gasoline on it, lit a match, and threw a Molotov cocktail of unfiltered opinions into the public square. Then she simply walked away, cool as you please, as if detonating the status quo was just another Tuesday. It was brutal, it was messy, and it was terrifyingly authentic. In an age of calculated ambiguity, that kind of conviction is a shock to the system. If you enjoyed leaving a like and subscribing, more videos are on the screen now.